Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Instagram Live, Lock-In Live with me, Tom Kerridge, talking all things pubs for licensed trade and people that are in it and anybody else who's interested. I'm joined this evening by two lovely ladies, Molly Davis from the British Institute of Innkeeping and Carolyn Jenkins from the Licensed Trade Charity. So, ladies, how has this year been? Should we start with Molly from the British Institute of Innkeeping? Why don't you tell us what's been going on this year and how it's been for you?
So it's been a mad year, obviously. From when we got the announcement that pubs were closing, we were really concerned that was potentially going to be the end of our organisation. I have to say, I think everybody had that moment because we weren't sure if pubs were going to survive. So your organisation, the British Institute of Innkeeping, give us a lowdown of what it is, what you do, and then. So we are an independent membership organisation for people who work in the licensed trade, and what that basically boils down to is that we offer support to people who run pubs. And everything around what they need to do that. So we cover the whole of the industry from free trade through to tenants and lessees with pubcos and everything in between. Really giving business support and guidance to those people who quite often are in small family-run businesses or individuals or business partnerships who don't have access to maybe what they would have if they were part of a managed chain. So we offer 8 expert helplines, so that ranges from legal to licensing law. So if they've got a problem with someone kicking off in the pub and it's a licensing officer who's going in, they can phone the helpline and get instant advice from a proper solicitor. So we offer advice on tax issues and also rateable value on their properties, which is something that's really important obviously to pubs. Even prior to the pandemic, but especially now. We also run our BII Help Desk, which is our membership services team, who are, when you don't know what help you need, they're there at the end of the phone saying, okay, I absolutely understand your problem and I can signpost you to all these different areas. One of those areas being Carolyn and her team at the Licensed Trade Charity. So if anybody really is struggling financially, emotionally, with mental health issues, those sorts of things, we can signpost them to Carolyn's team.
So you work as a business support structure to the trade industry, and then Carolyn comes in from a more, I suppose, personal level, helping people on a personal note.
100%. I mean, we're a really good package. So anyone watching today, if you have us two on board, you're pretty much supported in everything. So our remit is to help anyone that serves, sells, manufactures or distributes alcohol. So not only is it pubs, which is a major audience today, it will be people in nightclubs, events, restaurants, breweries, distilleries, wines and spirits, all of those guys that obviously have been affected in the last year.
So this year has been massive for you. So have you seen a huge uptake in the amount of people that have been talking to you, needing your help, needing your guidance?
Absolutely. I mean, in the end of 2019, we helped 23,000 people. At the end of 2020, 73,000 people.
Wow.
Our helpline tripled, our website went up massively, and we gave away a lot more money. So, yeah, it was really, really busy. And a bit of a roller coaster because depending on different parts of lockdown, when obviously before even the word FOLO was invented, I didn't even know what that meant then, I'm sure lots of people didn't, people were saying, well, am I going to get paid? Because it seemed like it was only a few days, but it seemed like forever, didn't it?
Yeah.
When you heard about that. So they were then starting to phone the helpline saying, I don't know how I'm going to survive. Then the FOLO came in, so they felt a bit reassured, even though they're only on 80%, which is still quite tough out there. They then we had sort of isolation and mental health issues because they were just, like pub people are people.
Yeah.
They do not want to be locked down and stuck with their families.
This has been the worst thing about lockdown for anybody within the hospitality or events business, whatever. It isn't something that you can do on a Zoom call. It isn't something that you can do off Instagram. I mean, but I think we've probably all seen people being very diverse and very clever about trying to stay connected to their customers and their guests.
Yeah.
But actually, the reality of it is it's a day in, day out. We live our lives through this, so it's been totally ripped away from everybody. So for your point of view, it's been an incredibly busy year. And do you feel that you've been able to help all of these people that have contacted you?
Yeah, I think What we've done is, whenever we see the barometer changing, we put services in place for the time. So when we found out about, mental health, we then primed our helpline guys to say that there's a lot of people finding isolation issue, relationship breakdown. So we've now partnered with Relate, so they can do that, because that's coming out of the woodwork now. Mental health has affected the children of people in the trade, and we do, again, went live last week with 10 to 18 personal counselling for children of the trade. So I think that's a mental health awareness week as well, so it's quite apt.
Yeah.
But we have actually, I think, sewn up mental health. So if someone, for instance, is going through a bereavement, or they've lost their job or their house because of COVID or any other reason, because we've been going for ages, they can phone the helpline and get emotional support, but they can also phone the helpline and get information specialists who are trained up to CAB. So they can talk them all through the things like, have you, phoned the funeral directors? Your relationship breakdown, have you got kids, so that you can have contact with them? Whose name is the house in? So we wanted our helpline to be a one-stop shop of anything that worries you. And we keep thinking of stuff that maybe we haven't done yet, but luckily it's not that much.
No, it sounds like you've got a lot covered. So in terms of a charity, it's very, very big.
Yeah, we do the whole of the UK, and we do things like housing. So, we've heard that pubs haven't worked out, so potentially someone would have lost their job and their home, and their family are at risk. So we can do financial grants. There's a bit of eligibility criteria. You have to have worked in the trade for 5 years, but that's about it. And we've paid for them to get into rented accommodation.
Right.
And we've had people, I also think when we come out of this, there's going to be a lot more evictions, sadly, because people will be behind with their rent that work in pubs and industry. And we would try and stop that happening by maybe paying their rent arrears off.
So rental, that's something that then starts falling into a business remit, which is obviously where you come in. And how have you found it from a business point of view? People contacting you, people talking you through the issues that they're facing, and is rental arrears, is eviction, are these real possibilities that people are looking, staring down the barrel of?
Absolutely. I think it depends very much on your business model within the pub that you're in as well. So we've seen a whole sort of from 0 to 100 in terms of support and debt fears for people. So if you're a free trader and you rent from a commercial landlord, you have got full rent staring down the barrel at you, and lots of people who we've heard from have had no concessions. That's the deal. You've got to pay your full rent. Right down to the other end of the scale, where people who are tenants with some of the pubcos have had rent credits or discounts off their rent, and even from a lot of the regional family brewers, 100% cancellation from the word go. So no rent to be paid, or at the very minimum 10% residential rate for those that are staying in the pubs. So that immediately gave them the surety that they didn't have that debt. Having said that, 50% cancellation of your rent, still 50% of the rent you've got to pay when you've got no money coming
with
in.
zero turnover.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So debt for sure is the biggest fear, I think, from people, but also the potential for, will they make it even through to be able to open again, to try and get their money back in to pay off that debt, and when will they have to start paying that debt back? And we've seen with Seagulls loans staring at them any minute now, literally any minute now, with not being open. Yeah. So and as soon as you bring your staff back, there's no furlough support. So you've got to make a decision. What do? Do I pay my Seagulls or my bounce back loan payments, or do I pay my staff?
So where do you see it as businesses moving forward? The struggles that we all recognise in hospitality that the next few years are going to be very, very difficult. Yeah. And sadly, we are already seeing announcements on Twitter and Instagram of pubs or restaurants that we follow, or places that are going, sadly, we're not going to be able to reopen our doors. And by personal experience, we know as a businesses we've taken on a huge amount of debt and loans, and to be able to get to that point of operating. And we all know that the hospitality industry operates on quite small percentages, and EBITDAs are very low. You don't make huge profits. So if you're already not making huge profits in a normal trading year, you're just kind of existing or making, because it's a lifestyle. We talked about it. It's a lifestyle you want to be. Yeah. You enjoy being in pubs and being in hospitality. How is it likely that we're going to get lots of closures immediately, or is it going to be kind of slight, slow, painful deaths as people are trying to keep their head above water, as they're trying to repay loans, pay for staff to be there? whilst also trying to generate as much business as possible.
I think we've certainly seen, and in the press there's been lots of, thousands of pub closures, and then you kind of pull the figure back and look at it again, and it's not as many as first feared. But I think there will be pubs who maybe before COVID were not in great shape, who will definitely really struggle to get back on board. I also think there's pubs who maybe are in that terrible middle ground, who aren't small enough that they could hibernate really well over the pandemic and did take advantage of the grants and the furlough for their staff. That middle ground where they're not big enough to get a CBILS loan to see them through, those are the people who are probably in danger, and they need the support ongoing from government. So one of the things we're calling for is the full cancellation of business rates, not kicking back in again with a discount to match Scotland and Wales for England. But also some breathing room on those repayments and making sure that people have got the time to build their business back up again. I think one of the dangers is when you see all of the positive press, and there has been a lot of positive press at the moment, which is great because it's a difference than the negative press that we had maybe at lockdown 2, is that you see a full beer garden and you think, brilliant, everything's great again. But a full beer garden is probably 25% of what you were doing beforehand. You've got to double your staff. You've got so many more regulations that you've got to be aware of, and huge amounts of costs in addition to the debt that you're staring at. We had a conversation last night with a few operators, and one of them was saying in Wales he'd opened because he wanted to open, not because it was going to make financial sense, because he wanted to get back in the swing of things. And he said in a week where they would normally be doing sort of 4 or 5 grand, they were working really hard, twice the amount of staff. One of the staff members had clocked up 27,000 steps on his Fitbit because they were having to go all the way down to the bottom of the garden, and they made 1,600 quid. And that is not sustainable long term. It's just not. It's not a business that could survive at that level. So until we're free of any restrictions, and that includes social distancing and people being able to walk up to a bar and order a pint, that would be a lovely thing. But until we're there, these businesses are not going to make money. They're just going to be breaking even, and they're just going to be doing it because they want to get their communities back in and address more of those mental health issues. We've seen it time and time again where, particularly in kind of, not even just in small villages, but in town pubs that have regulars, those regulars tend to be people who don't have the support network in other areas.
Yeah.
And I know you did some great work over lockdown with the Meals from Marlow and all of that great stuff, and we gave you our Heart of the Community Award when we had 130 of those, but we could have had 1,300 of them if people had actually applied.
There's been the one wonderful, we've seen many positive, I mean, we're focusing on things that are quite negative here, we're worrying about what's coming forward. However, there's been so much positivity within the world of publicans and pubs in terms of how they've sat there within the heart of communities, how they've helped spaces and people, they've connected people through loneliness or through food or through just making sure that everybody's okay. Pubs really have come into their own, even though they haven't been able to open their doors. The pub landlords and the people that work in them have genuinely been absolutely outstanding throughout this whole pandemic. And moving forward, what do you feel the word on the street is like regarding guests? I mean, we're edging ever closer to the 17th of May. It's Monday. We are allowed to open inside. Like you say, with restrictions, there is still going to be at least a month's worth of restrictions that mean that we don't necessarily operate as a profit, because there is the social distancing, there are many other issues that are put in place of legislation that pubs have to operate with. But in terms of getting to that point, can you feel that there's a slight turn in? Is there a positive vibe moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we offer support, so there is a bit of nervousness, but I think you have to turn that around on its head and sort of make that a positive thing. So what we want to convey really is if the audience today that are watching are pub owners, and they're thinking, well, I'm excited as hell to open up, but I don't know how my staff are, so this is a good thing. And you want them to be on board, because then customers will be happy and then business will eventually get better. We can help all of those. So, the pub landlords can see someone's not right. You can tell when someone's not right because they just change their character, don't they?
Yeah.
And you can just have a chat with them and say, I also think the guys that have done it really well are the ones that have just kept in touch with their teams throughout, because it's going to make it less daunting. So even if you've got a weekend left, I still don't think it's too late to just give them a ring and say, have you got any worries? Because you're running a business, you want it to be successful, and if you're giving good customer service, it can't be a bad thing. And I also think those staff are going to think better of those pubcos. I know we did some COVID grants, and so the pubs actually put their own money in a pot, and we helped their own pub companies. And the emails we got, they were only £200 a time. The emails we got saying that made a massive difference to my loyalty to you was amazing.
Yeah.
So you just need to say, you might be feeling crap, but what can I do to help you? And have little team huddles if there is a bad day, because there will be bad days, won't there?
So what do you think the main concerns are then for pub landlords moving forward to opening on that 17th? Is that, we're all excited about opening. I know myself and our teams are very much looking forward to it, but are there pubs out there and pub landlords that are a little nervous about opening? What are their main worries?
Letting themselves down and letting their teams down. The teams are worried about letting their bosses down, and they just need to talk to each other, because funny enough, we had this really great conversation with a brewery and pubco up north, and we did a change resilience course. They've never done anything like it before, and it was 3 sessions, and we thought that they'd be really reluctant to come. They were. You know what people like with training, especially in the pub industry, like so they came on this course, and they were completely changed their heads about. They then admitted they were nervous, and these guys have been in the industry for 20 years that were regional directors, and they were just saying that we don't want to let anyone down, we don't want to let our brewery down.
Is a lot of that, though, do you think, to do with being just out of practice? We're just out of practice. It's muscle memory. We go back to pouring pints, and we go back to saying hello and welcoming people.
I think
how long do you think it will be before we feel, as within the pub industry, that we're doing the right job?
I think there is a bit of that, but I also think because everything was flipped on its head at the beginning of the pandemic, and all of a sudden everybody who had been doing it for 20, 30 years didn't know what to do anymore. It wasn't, nobody had the answers. And definitely we heard from a lot of people who were so unsure, and like you said, Carolyn, in the beginning, it did feel like months between that kind of shutting down and the announcement of furlough, and it was literally a matter of days. So I do think that we are very resilient as an industry. I do think that pub landlords and ladies are that kind of, they've got a different kind of makeup, and I do think that they will bounce back. But I think it's good that they're nervous, because that shows that they care about getting it right, and it shows they care about their teams and getting their customers' expectations met. I do think that's going to be really tricky in the first month, because people will come back, and we've seen it already in an outdoor reopening. You go to your local, it's great to be back, everything's great, and then an hour later you still haven't got your drink, and maybe you're getting a bit frustrated. People will put up with that for a little while, but I think that their expectations will soon sharply rise, and we need to meet them as an industry. But that will depend on those restrictions being lifted.
Do we also though need to manage customer expectation? This is something as well. This is we're very keen to get people coming back through the doors. So it's managing customer expectation. But also, do you think we'll be back to 100% of the customers wanting to come back? Are there still going to be customers that are nervous about coming back? So if that's the case, how do we reassure guests that our environments are safe, people are welcome? How do we do that?
One of the things that we did quite early on, and it was far and away the most successful thing that we did in terms of communications out to members, was at the point where we were heading for the first reopening, there was all pictures of pubs with like yellow and black tape, and you mustn't do this and you can't go here, and you just looked at them and thought, I don't want to go there, I'm not going there. So we thought, well, how can we turn it around and be positive? So my team created some positivity posters so that we could have them available for members to download. They didn't need to spend have expensive posts. They didn't have to go into it and try and design it from scratch themselves. So they were bright, they were colourful, they were informative posters, but they were telling people what they could do rather than what they couldn't do. And that was a massive win for us. So that was my digital engagement executive, Ellie, was in charge of that, and she did an amazing job on that. And then we worked on the Pubs Matter campaign, which we did in collaboration with several other trade bodies, but CAMRA were at the heart of that, to really encourage people to get back to the pub, to recognise it's a safe space, to support your local pub, and they were great at involving MPs and people who really needed to know about the fragility of the industry. So we were always trying to get that positivity injected in there, and we're going out again this weekend with some more sort of positive social media about it. But I think you're right about people's managing customers' expectations, and we've heard from some really great ideas from operators. We survey our members really regularly, and we did one the week after reopening, which was lessons learned, so that you could pass that knowledge on to other people. And some of the key things they were saying were, make sure your staff have got warm fleeces because it's cold in the garden, make sure they've got comfortable shoes, make sure that you are setting up an outdoor station for cutlery and condiments and all those things, so they don't have to keep coming in and out of the pub. Make sure that you are communicating with your customers at every opportunity to let them know that there's an hour wait on food. As long as people know there's an hour wait on food, then they order a double round of drinks and they're happy. There
is nothing worse than there. It's the lack of communication.
Yes.
It's the lack of knowing. And you hear that many a time. A prime example that we constantly use within our businesses. You know, you hear it when people go to airports and their flight is cancelled, or it's delayed, but they're not given the information. They don't know. You wouldn't mind if somebody said it will be at this time or in 3 hours, and it's because of this. And if you just let the guest know, it calms the nerves. It puts everybody into that safe space, and it makes everyone feel
comfortable. I totally agree, because my background is customer service. That's all I've done since I've left school, for toy companies, loads of things. So it was old-fashioned complaint letters, if you remember that. So
we know those. We still get them. They just come in the form of email now.
Yeah, exactly. So what you mustn't do is overpromise and underdeliver. Do the other way around, because if you sort of don't tell them what to do, but just say it may be a bit of time and then it's sooner. That's such a, it's a really simple thing that lots of people don't get right. And also just be honest with the staff. A lot of staff just don't look round at where people are sitting and what's happening, and that doesn't take much at all. And just say that thing, I'll be with you in a minute, as opposed to they do that sheep thing, but they just go past hoping that the eye contact.
You don't want to get told off anymore.
Exactly. But you'll do the other way around. So I think you need to have really good team meetings, a little briefing each day until people get used to it. And I totally agree with what you said, is that you will have that memory muscle. And I liken the pub trade to acting. The first night is always really scary, and then when you're on the third matinee, you've got it, and you know how the audience are going to react. And I think it's really similar in the pub trade. Once you're in it,
we just roll with it.
Yeah.
So do you think all fears will kind of be put to one side the moment we can get operating and moving? Do you think there will be this kind of, as we open, there'll be a bit of a surge and a spike of people going to spend time indoors? And do you think it will then plateau? Do you think it will drop down and then kind of wave up and down again? Or where do you think we'll be? How do you think, as a nation, we'll react to restaurants and pubs and bars being back open? And then as an industry, how do we cope? I'm asking this because the next bit that we're going to lead to is in terms of staff and staffing levels. 1 million people have left our country. 350,000 of them operate within hospitality. There is a huge loss of hospitality workers, bar staff, chefs, kitchen porters. These are one of the biggest fears that are sat within as an industry and as a restaurant owner and a pub owner. Where are we going to find these staff? Is that a real fear? Is it going to come back? I mean, I suppose this is more of a business question than a charitable one, but it's
probably a bit of both. You're qualified, Molly, on that one a bit more.
I think yes, we will see a surge of people coming back to pubs. I think yes, we'll get back into the swing of things. I think it'll be really difficult and there'll be lots of hurdles to overcome, but we will. And as we move further and further along the roadmap, I think that'll get easier. There's a massive problem in terms of staff shortages, for definite. I think that's exacerbated by all the things you've said, but also because we need more staff to service the same people because of all the regulations, all the enhanced cleaning, all of the one-way systems, all of those things at the moment. So that will hopefully calm down a little bit. But I think something that we need to do as an industry is be better at shouting about what a great job we do in terms of training and development of our staff, and what a fantastic career prospect it really is. Because genuinely, I see so many examples of people who have started as a pot wash or started as a waiter or waitress in a local pub, and if they stick with it and if they get in with the right operators, the opportunities for them are massive. And that's with no formal qualifications behind them. So I really do think it's a unique industry from that perspective, but we also need to get better about shouting about it and supporting people through that. And I think one of the things that can really help with that is Kickstart scheme, apprenticeship schemes. They're a bit scary because it's one of those, I don't know what I'm doing. We have a sister organisation called the IIAB, who are an awarding body and an endpoint assessment organisation, which all sounds very fancy, but basically they deliver great short qualifications that make people feel like they know what they're doing, and longer term apprenticeships to really support people. And apprenticeships isn't a dirty word anymore. It's not that kind of like, it's just cheap labour. It really isn't. And we can see that, and we did a webinar a few weeks ago with one of our members down in Cornwall, and his head chef has gone from apprentice on work experience. He brought his parents in to chat with them to say, look, these are the opportunities. This is not just a stopgap job. And I think that, we need some stopgap jobs as well. We need some students who just want to come in and make some money and get out.
They have great energy. They give you a dynamic. We employ students in a number of our businesses that come in part-time. They may do 2 or 3 evenings a week, but they turn up with an input of energy that's not already in that space. They arrive with it, and then they go away again, and then they come back 2 or 3 times a week, given that space. So it is an incredibly eclectic industry that needs very diverse characters from different backgrounds to be making it work.
And also, I think I'm saying, like, a lot of people think customer service is the punters that pay the bills. Yeah, your customers are all your staff as well. Yeah, and that is so important. The people that haven't left the pub codes have been the ones that have been in touch. And, like you say, that thing, you shouldn't just buy a dog, it's not just for Christmas. Yeah. I think you need to do the same with COVID. You need to develop that relationship and make that second nature. Because, the pub trade, my son is in it, he's left now, but he was in it. And if you hear of a good pub with a good support, and that word of mouth does spread, you are going to go there. So if you look after your staff, they're the ones that we're going to get the people in and keep them. And it is really important to think of your staff as customers as well as customers that pay you.
So then, last kind of question then before we wrap it up. From your point of view then, Molly, fears that people have got about the industry, about their businesses, no matter how big or small they are. What should they do? How should they tackle it? Because we've all got different fears about our businesses. Most of them will be debt related. And then how do we service that debt? What's the best way? What's the best kind of plan of attack that they should be doing regarding opening? And then if they are in trouble and they do need help, how do they get to speak to you?
Well, first of all, I think being aware of our organisations is key, because if there is something that is really that kind of immediate debt problem that you can't resolve and you can't see a way out of, then Carolyn's team is definitely the way to go, and we always signpost people that way. We're open for our members to join, and we've got people who've been with us for the 40 years that we've been going. We've got people who have come on board in COVID, and they've all said that the support that we offer has been really clear. It's been really simple. We try to kind of cut through all of the red tape and all of the really complex legislation that's going on. And I think just picking up the phone to people like us and like Carolyn, the support and help is there, and we can guide you to the right area for you. But I would also say that you just got to be mindful that we've got lots of members who are in sort of different categories, and one of the categories is I'm terrified of taking debt. So they may owe rent to their landlord, but they are also terrified of taking that loan to invest in their businesses because they've never had to do it before. And I think trying to get people to plan ahead and think about what the future could hold, as well as that instant terror bit.
So building projected P&Ls that include that debt, that shows levels of how you can pay it off, proper repayment schedules with an understanding of how to do it. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't be like a student with a credit card bill that just keeps hiding it and pretending not to pay it. Tackle it head on.
I do think it's really easy to do that, and especially when you feel a bit hopeless maybe about the situation, but there are lots of people in the trade who help with that. So licensed trade specific accountants is a must. If you don't have an accountant that understands a pub model business, you're probably on the back foot already, because they don't know how to help you. So that's one of the things we signpost to. But never be afraid to pick up the phone. and the cost of our membership, we're a charity, same as Carolyn is, and it's £155 a year. So if you had one call to a legal helpline, you've probably paid that back in spades.
So tell us how to get, who you are, how to get hold of you, where to find you.
British Institute of Innkeeping. You can find us at www.bii.org, or we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can get hold of us on any of those channels, pick up the phone and speak to one of our team tomorrow from 9 a.m.
And Carolyn, from your point of view?
Well, a brilliant relationship. You can phone both, because I think we got the whole package for you, really. We're our helplines 24/7. If you just Google Licensed Trade Charity, it comes up to the top of Google almost, because we say what we do on the tin. And I'd always start with a helpline, because there's not really many problems they don't know. So whatever you're going through as a manager, because we've also got a management line, which is great for newly sort of promoted people, just phone that helpline. And if it's more complicated, those guys who are really good will signpost them to us. We can just do financial support. Just phone them. Don't put stuff off. And they're really lovely. We've got a sense of humour, so have they.
That's it. Don't put stuff off. So hopefully, guys, you can see that there is even though we all understand that as publicans in hospitality, we are under a lot of pressure to get open. There is a huge amount of debt that we've all taken on that we've got to build to be able to pay back. But there is the huge appetite out there that people are desperate to get into pubs, desperate to support us. And if you do find yourself in any need of any guidance or any help, these are the ladies to contact. Otherwise, good luck on May the 17th. We will get open. We will have a go at getting and servicing this debt and moving forward. We have a question, no specific questions, just lots of comments. Help doesn't come quick enough, we're struggling. Help doesn't come quick enough, we're struggling.
So I probably would say that might be in relation to the restart grants. That's one of the things that we were really disappointed about, people getting hold of them. I would say if you are a member, or if you want to join us, or if you just want to pick up the phone and speak to us, if you've got a problem with any specific local authority, we can try and help. We have helped lots of our members access a bit more support. The trouble with the grants has been that it's been really different from all 400 local authorities. So we've got a publican who sits across the England and Wales border with 3 or 4 pubs, and the support from those different local authorities and the different country line has just been hugely different. We've had people who've had grants paid with no problem at all. You've had a grant before, brilliant, well obviously you're eligible for this one. We've had people, and we've got, I would say, probably at least half of our members still haven't received their restart grant, which was supposed to be with local authorities on the 1st of April. And it was there to restock. It was there to restart. That was the name of the grant. And here we are kind of heading towards the end or the middle of May, and they still haven't had that support. There's been lots of paperwork and red tape in the way. But also, frustratingly, other people have done it so quickly and they've had it a week after. And you think, well, if you can do that as a local authority, which is set up surely in the same way as another, then why can't it be done? So we're in constant communication with government to pass on those points of frustration, and they are communicating with local authorities to try and get that through as quickly as possible. But pick up the phone to us and we can see if we can help.
Pick up the phone, guys. And one of the notes here says that there's quite a bit of feedback coming. There's definitely some nervousness out there, both from staff and customers feeling a little bit anxious about getting back. And that's completely understandable. But from a guest point of view, there's never been an industry that's more ready to welcome you back. That it completely understands all the health and safety, the due diligence, the risk assessments. We've been working on it for the whole year. I mean, we work under those restrictions anyway. So if you're a guest that's wanting to come back through the doors, don't worry, your pubs have got you covered. They will be very, 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 very safe. And if you're a landlord that's looking at getting back open on May the 17th, or members of staff that go back into work, please don't worry about it. You will not be letting anybody down. You'll be doing the jobs that you absolutely love doing. And that muscle memory will come back, and before you know it, we will have loads of lovely pints of beer out, guests having a wonderful time, and everybody enjoying themselves. Guys, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you in the next Lock In Live.